Hello there, you're watching Al24 Midnight News. I'm Abdulrahim Kashur and to the headlines. President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, indicated that it was urgent to start a new era in bilateral relations between Algeria and France. The Libyan Presidential Council called the President of the Council of Deputies and the head of the Supreme Court State Council to a meeting to resolve the political crisis in the country. In Palestine, another young man was wounded by occupation forces bullets which stormed the old city of Nablus in the northern West Bank. China's President Xi Jinping told Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin that the road to peace talks on Ukraine would not be smooth and that China would continue to uphold its objective and fair stance. Welcome again. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, indicated that during an interview granted to the French newspaper Le Figaro that it was urgent to start a new era in bilateral relations between Algeria and France, stressing that Algeria is a leading African power. Mohamed Khatal.
The President of the Republic announced in the same context that he will pay a visit to France in 2023 while considering that France should free itself from its complex of colonizer and Algeria from its complex of colonized country. President Tebboune underlined that Algeria is an African power that no longer resembles to what it used to be in 1962.
There is an urgent need to start a new era of bilateral relations between Algeria and France. More than 60 years after the war, we must move on. If memory is deeply rooted in us, we also share many fundamental interests, even if our points of view might diverge.
Evoking the issue of memory and after recalling the decision to set up a commission of historians from both sides that he took with the French president, the head of state affirmed that part of the colonization must be depoliticized and entrusted to history.
You have to take into account the 132 years of occupation, because not everything started with the War of Independence. There are proven facts, achieved and documented, that cannot be hidden and which are evidenced by manuscripts.
Regarding the nuclear tests carried out by colonial France in southern Algeria, President Tebboune requested that France cleanses the sites of these tests in the region of Regan and Tamarasset, which are still suffering from huge pollution. He expressed his wish that France handles the medical care needed by the people living in these regions. Responding to a question about restoring the usual flow of visas by France, the President of the Republic considered that it is simply in the logic of things, recalling that the circulation of people between our two countries was regulated by the Evian Agreements of 1962 and the 1968 Agreement. Speaking about the crisis in Ukraine, President Tebboune affirmed Algeria's neutrality.
I neither approve nor condemn the Russian operation in Ukraine. Algeria is a non-aligned country, and I want to respect this philosophy. Our country was born to be free.
Evoking the situation prevailing in the world, the President of the Republic indicated that it would be good for the UN not only to condemn the annexations that are taking place in Europe before questioning the annexation of the Golan Heights by the Zionist entity or of Western Sahara by Morocco.
Still in Algeria, the Speaker of the National People's Assembly, Brahim Boughali, will take part next Sunday in Brazilian capital Brasilia in the swearing-in ceremony of the new Brazilian President Lula Inácio Lula da Silva. Mr. Boughali is going to be a representative of the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. Algeria's participation in the inauguration ceremony of the new President of the Republic of Brazil confirms the equality and the quality of the historical and economic relations between the two countries, especially since Brazil was among the first countries to have opened an embassy in Algeria following the recovery of national sovereignty in 1962. Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune sent a message of condolences to his Brazilian counterpart, Lula da Silva. In his name and on behalf of the Algerian people, following the death of football legend Pelé. According to a statement issued by the Algerian presidency, Tebboune expressed in the letter his deep touch at the death of what he described as the righteous son of Brazilian people and the global icon who had always inspired people and made him sit on the throne of football for decades. Tunisian President Kais Saied extended the state of emergency until the end of the coming month. The state of emergency will be applied on the entire Tunisian territory and will start from the 1st until the 30th of January 2023. Still in Africa, the Libyan Presidential Council called the President of the Council of Deputies, Aqila Saleh, and the head of the Supreme Court State Council, Khalid al-Mashri, for a meeting to resolve the political crisis in the North African country. This came in an official letter addressed to the House of Representatives and the Supreme Council of the state. No official comment was made by Saleh Aqila and al-Mashri in this regard. The Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said Thursday that stability in Libya is a crucial issue for Rome. Meloni added that her country contributes to the debate on constitutional basis to renew the legitimacy of the Libyan authorities and to address the flow of illegal migration to Europe. The Italian Prime Minister said that her discussion with Libyan Prime Minister Abdel Hamid Dbiba and Foreign Minister Najla Al-Manqoush, as well as with US President Joe Biden, focused on this matter. For the second day in a row, the Court of Appeal in Bamako, Mali, is considering the case of the 46 Ivorian soldiers who have been detained since the 10th of last July after they were suspected of being mercenaries seeking to harm the security of the Malian state. On the other hand, the Ivorian authorities defended the innocence of their soldiers, stressing that they were part of a security and logistical unit operating within the framework of UN peacekeeping mission, which prompted them to make repeated calls for their release. Eritrean soldiers withdrew from the towns of Shire and Aksum in northern Ethiopia's Tigray region towards the border. Aid workers in Shire and Aksum said they saw several trucks and dozens of cars packed with Eritrean soldiers. An aid worker said that soldiers were waving goodbye while it was not immediately clear whether the Eritrean forces were leaving Tigray entirely or only withdrawing from certain towns. Somali security forces regained on Friday control over several areas in the Lawas Shabil region in the southwest of the country. Somali news agency stated that the security forces regained control over the areas of Jandarishi, Galbid, and Marka, which were under the grip of mercenaries linked to the terrorist Al-Qaeda organization. An attack in eastern Syria has killed at least 10 oil field workers a day after Syrian Kurdish-led forces announced an offensive against the Daesh terrorist group. State news agency SANA reported that 2 other workers were wounded in a terrorist attack that targeted 3 buses transporting workers from Taim oil field in province of Deir az-Zur. In the Middle East, a Palestinian young man was wounded by occupation forces bullets which stormed the old city of Nablus in the northern West Bank and surrounded several houses. The Palestinian Red Crescent reported that a Palestinian young man was injured by occupation fire, during which the Zionist forces besieged several houses in the old city of Nablus. As 2022, Lebanese people still struggling to contain the repercussions of hard financial crisis and political impasse of the failure to elect a new president after Michel Aoun left presidential palace in October. The financial crisis in Lebanon began in 2019 was reflected in 2022 by the sharp fall of the Lebanese currency against the US dollar. Spanish authorities managed to arrest members of a gang that was active in their territory, forging documents and selling them to Moroccan nationals in order to enable them to obtain Spanish residency certificates. More about this report with Hussein Berkan.
Before the end of 2022, a new scandal floated on the surface of Moroccan regime to be added to the list of scandals raised against the kingdom. The scandal this time is the complicity of local officials in forging documents and selling them to Moroccan citizens on the name of Sahrawis to enable them to obtain Spanish residency certificates through family ties. The Spanish Ministry of Interior was able to unravel the threats of the group that took Almeria, Tarragon, and Navarra as a place for its activity, after noticing similarity in many and unusual requests submitted by Moroccan immigrants to obtain residency related to family ties, despite their submission in different immigration offices on Spanish soil, to finally reach the conclusion that documents included in the files of immigrants were all issued in the Moroccan city of Azza. And after checking them, it became clear it does not match the official records. The Spanish authorities indicated that the number of potential customers for this network is estimated at about 50 people, and its profits are estimated at about 150,000 euros, while two searches in a house in Navarra, northern Spain, result in the finding of many forged documents and computers related to the subject of the investigation.
China's President Xi Jinping told Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin Friday that the road to peace talks on Ukraine would not be smooth and that China would continue to uphold its objective and fair stance. More with Nabil Khazini.
In a context of a tense security crisis, the Russian President Vladimir Putin stressed during a video meeting with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping that he wants to strengthen military cooperation with Beijing, praising the two countries' resistance in the face of Western pressure. Putin said Russia's ties with China are the best in history. He also invited the Chinese leader to make a state visit to Russia next spring, as Moscow seeks to deepen its ties with Beijing.
In the face of increasing geopolitical tension, the significance of the Russian-Chinese strategic partnership is growing as a stabilizing factor. Our relations withstand all tests with dignity, demonstrate maturity and stability, and continue to expand dynamically.
Xi in turn said China is ready to expand the strategic partnership between the two countries, saying that the two sides need to maintain close coordination and collaboration in international affairs.
In the face of a difficult and far from straightforward international situation, we are ready to increase strategic cooperation with Russia, provide each other with development opportunities, be global partners for the benefit of the peoples of our countries and in the interests of stability around the world.
Relations between Moscow and Beijing have grown stronger in recent months. Beijing has refused to publicly condemn the war in Ukraine, accusing Washington, D.C. instead of provoking Russia through pressure to expand the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Only recently, Moscow and Beijing successfully concluded week-long naval drills in East China Sea, which included practicing how to capture a submarine and firing artillery at a warship.
In the same story, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky acknowledged that most regions of this country suffer from power outages, but said that the damage would have increased without air defense, which he described as heroic. In addition, U.S. President Joe Biden signed a new budget law, which includes additional billions in aid to Ukraine. A court in army-ruled Myanmar found on Friday deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi guilty in all 5 counts of corruption, according to a source familiar with her trial in a court session held behind closed doors. 77 years old Aung San Suu Kyi was sentenced to combined 7 years in prison for offenses. The Nobel Peace Prize winner has also previously been ordered to serve a total of 26 years in prison after being found guilty of a wide range of offenses, all of which she has denied. And now for more international news, let's follow this roundup.
Protesters in Bolivia's Santa Cruz region blocked highways overnight as part of a general strike following their governor's arrest. Scattered protesters remained on Friday morning as fires smoldered out, with the Santa Cruz flag strung across roads and large rocks used as temporary roadblocks. The protests are the latest face-off between Santa Cruz, led by right-wing Governor Luis Fernando Camacho, and leftist President Luis Arce's government. A Democratic-controlled U.S. House of Representatives committee released 6 years of former President Donald Trump's tax returns to the public on Friday in an extraordinary move days before Republicans take control of the chamber. The release of Trump's redacted returns for 2015 through 2020 caps a multi-year battle between the Republican former president and Democratic lawmakers that was settled only last month by the U.S. Supreme Court. Romanian prosecutors asked a Bucharest court on Friday to extend the detention of Andrei Tati by 30 days after the divisive internet personality was arrested on suspicion of human trafficking, rape, and forming an organized crime group. Tati, a former professional kickboxer, and his brother Tristan were detained on Thursday for an initial 24 hours. Prosecutors said the Tati brothers had been under criminal investigation since April, and they had found 6 women who had been sexually exploited by the suspects. People across China celebrated the traditional Laba festival on Friday by eating Laba congee and making Laba garlic, among holding other festivities, sharing the happiness of getting together as the lunar year draws to close and a new one approaches. The Laba festival is celebrated on the 8th day of the 12th month of the lunar Chinese calendar. It is traditionally regarded as the prelude to Spring Festival, the most important festival for people of Chinese origin, as people start their preparations for the coming festivities and for those working or studying in big cities to return home and reunite with their families.
The Mozambique national team arrived in Algiers on Friday in anticipation of participation in the 2022 African Football Championship, which is scheduled to take place in Algeria from January 13 to February 4th. The delegation, which includes 40 people, was received by the head of the organizing committee, Rashid Ukali, as well as some members of the federal office, where the players expressed their gratitude and happiness at the warm reception they received at the airport.
We just arrived in Algeria. We are very happy. The way the Federation of Algeria did receive us, the president, the vice president, we are feeling very happy. About the competition, I believe this will be very difficult. We are going to meet we are going to meet strong teams, and I believe we are prepared enough.
We would like to thank the Algerian Football Association for this warm welcome. We had a long trip, and then when you got here this morning, I saw a lot of people coming to welcome us. It was positive.
Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo has joined Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr on a 2-year contract. Saudi state TV Al Khabariya reported on its website on Friday. The club has not yet announced a deal, and Ronaldo's representatives were not immediately available for any comment. Ronaldo, 37, left Premier League giants Manchester United last month following an explosive television interview in which the forward said he felt betrayed by the club and did not respect the Dutch manager Erik ten Hag. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for being with us. For more updates, you can follow our social media platform. And for now, all I can say, good night.